Today's episode of Market Zero is brought to you by theGrandSlamDunk.com, featuring sporting news, pop culture critiques, and enough nonsense to fill a stadium. Make sure to find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or just visit the website. Market. Welcome back and welcome home to the Market Zero podcast. Coming at you today, we're going to go another cross-country dueling mics. Yeah, we've got Uncle Ben and G-Money Grant coming at you. We're going to continue our NFL preview series. This time, we're going to check out the AFC West. So, Uncle Ben, what do we got?
All right, in the AFC West, we have the defending Super Bowl champions, the Denver Broncos, who had a 12-4 record last year. The Kansas City Chiefs were second, 11-5. The Oakland Raiders, a bounce-back year for the Oakland Raiders. They were 7-9, and rounding out the bottom of the division, the San Diego Chargers are 4-12, looking to bounce back this year. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case for them, though. I don't know, G-Money. Let's start at the bottom of this division with the Chargers. What the hell is going on in San Diego?
You know, I don't know. I mean, they didn't get to move to L.A. They're staying in San Diego. They're still in the most decrepit, worst stadium in the league, Qualcomm Stadium. Awful facilities. Seems like the team's kind of misrun. Yeah, a pretty terrible 4-12 last year. I'm not really sure I see anything much improved. I mean, they've still got Phillip Rivers. They've got an excellent quarterback. You'd think that he'd be good for at least a 500 record. I mean, he's a proven guy. We all hate him out here in Denver. Maybe not so much. He used to get into it with Jay Cutler back in the day, and we've all learned how much of a tool Jay Cutler is. So,
right,
you know, picking sides in that fight is, you know, like kissing your sister, kind of. But Phillip Rivers, he should be a good quarterback. And he is a good quarterback. He puts up numbers. He's probably a fantasy guy to be on your radar.
Great fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, excellent. Anybody who has owned Phillip Rivers in fantasy knows that nobody ever thinks about him, but he puts up solid numbers year after year. He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't miss games. He's always on the field. I mean, he's a solid NFL quarterback. And so it's just baffling why this team is just bad. It's just not good every year.
I think it's just the culture of San Diego. They've never won anything out there. They've been to one Super Bowl in the franchise's history. And there's always drama associated with them. I mean, right now they have Joey Bosa, who's refusing to sign his contract and to come into camp, and they have retracted their offer from him, so they may not even get their first-round pick out for him. I don't see San Diego winning more than 4 games, which works out well if you're wanting to bet the under on it. And I take my odds from oddshark.com. They had the line at 7. Or the over-under line, I should say. And when I went through the schedule, I only had them winning 4 games, so I would take the under on that.
I am right with you. I have them, same thing. I have them repeating. When I went through the schedule and marked down wins and losses, I couldn't find more than 3 or 4 or 5 wins. When I had a scenario with them with 5 wins, I felt like I was pretty generous to them. They have offensive weapons, though. I think for fantasy purposes, don't shy away from some of their players. Like Phillip Rivers, like I said, he's a great quarterback. They're going to produce. I just, like you said, they're not going to have that key piece. Joey Bosa more than likely isn't going to be there right away. I actually read an article today that they said the Chargers have pulled all offers. It's getting a little dirty. They've gone public. They are saying that now, because he's not in camp publicly, through the media, they're saying that any future adjustments are going to be altered because he's going to miss time now. So those two people are, yeah, like you said, just far away. They need the help on defense. And I can't see him winning more than 4 or 5 games. I would definitely go under, a good solid 2 or 3 games under.
Yeah, I agree with that. There, in terms of fantasy, doing a fantasy crossover here, I like Phillip Rivers, picking him up in the later rounds of the draft. Obviously, he's not a guy that you're going to jump up and take, in the 3rd or the 4th round. But if he's sitting there and you don't have a quarterback and you're in the 9th, 10th round, that's a good value pick to get because he is going to score you fantasy points. He will throw the soul-crushing interception at some point. So if you're a Chargers fan, expect that to come. The other guy, I believe, is Keenan Allen, is his top receiver out there.
Absolutely.
And that's a good fantasy pick, too. I speaking from experience with having Melvin Gordon on my team last year, fantasy owners, shy away from Melvin Gordon.
one of the big time soul crushing fantasy players last year, drafted very highly and incredibly disappointing. I think he might have a bounce back year. I don't think he is as worthless as he looked, and I think a lot of people were stung pretty hard. If he falls, in the 11th, 12th round, maybe worth a flyer. I don't think he's worthless per se, but yeah, wow, tough go last year with Melvin.
Yeah. So that's the bottom of the division. We don't need to spend much more time on the bottom of the division. It gets a little interesting, I think, when you're looking. It's basically a 3-team race for this division with the Broncos, Chiefs, and Raiders. And I have them all kind of grouped together. I had the Raiders being in third place, but not by much. When I went through the schedule, I had them winning 9 games. Which with their over-under at 8.5 from oddshark.com, that would put them over. I don't feel great about that, but I like their pieces. I think Derek Carr is not his brother. I think he's better than his brother. And they have a guy by the name of Amari Cooper who I think is very special and could mess around and be in that realm of Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham, DeAndre Hopkins, those kind of Julio Jones. I think he's a year or two away from getting on that level.
But I think you're right. I think he's on pace. I think the talent is undeniable. The speed is just blazing. I think you're right. He is definitely on my radar, too, for a pretty high fantasy pick. I think he's going to put up numbers. I'm a Derek Carr believer. I think he's a good quarterback, too. I think the question in this division is can he stay upright, and can he hang in the pocket, and can the offensive line protect him long enough against some ferocious pass rushes, especially the Denver Broncos, which we saw win the Super Bowl last year? Can they protect him long enough for Amari to take the top off the defense? Let's be honest. This is Denver's division. It's been Denver's division for a long time now. And if you want to do anything, if you want to get to the next level, you got to go through Denver. And while they don't have a quarterback at all, the defense is still pretty ferocious. So, yeah, Derek Carr, Amari Cooper. Also the running back, Latavius Murray, another guy to keep on your fantasy radar. He should have some good production this year. Yep. Latavius is going to be a good pickup. But all the potential's there. Now they just got to go out and stop the Denver defense and put up points on them.
I guess it comes down to who do you have faith in when you look at some of these coaches. Of these 3 teams, do you have faith in Jack Del Rio that he can outcoach Andy Reid? I don't know about that. Do you have faith in Jack Del Rio outcoaching Gary Kubiak? I mean, the Raiders did win a game last year from the Broncos. I don't mean to bring up a blemish on the 12-14 record for you, my friend, but that was a rough one. Del Rio figured out the Denver run game, and basically, not that the Denver run game was anything spectacular, but Denver couldn't do a damn thing in that game. So, I don't know, man. I don't necessarily have faith in Del Rio, but he definitely knows what the Broncos want to do. So that'll be an interesting matchup. The Bronco-Raider game suddenly feels like it has some juice again, and it hasn't had some juice in several years in the Mile High City. And it's always good when the Raiders are competitive and the Broncos are competitive and they bang it out. So we'll have to keep our eye on that, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. You say 12-4 last year, the blemish on the 12-4 record. It is miraculous that the Broncos won 12 games. I mean, they pulled so many games out of their asses late. The Oakland game being exactly one of them. I mean, they were behind. They had to force turnovers. Key games in the division, too. There was a Kansas City game where they had to force a late in their territory Jamal Charles fumble. I mean, 12-4 sounds great, but, man, that team with 4 or 5, not fumble recovers and 4 or 5 quirky plays, they're easily an 8-win team, which is kind of amazing for a team that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, one of the guys that we always listen to, Bill Simmons, he every week last year was just trashing the Broncos and always about how they're in these games and he doesn't know how, but they ended up winning the game. So they definitely, you got to be good, but you also have to be lucky. And I don't think you can make the argument that I think you can make the argument, I should say, that the Denver Broncos were one of the luckiest teams in the NFL last year, even if you just look at their playoff run. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like a sore Steeler fan here, but if Pittsburgh isn't on their sixth-string running back in that game, I'm hard-pressed to say if Denver beats them or not. If they're fully loaded and Antonio Brown is playing and they have all their weapons, I don't know if Denver wins that ball game. So you have that break. The Jamal Charles fumble earlier on in the year kind of propelled Denver on this run where they were okay. And it was the sheriffs last year, listening to the governor, kind of direct things going. Here's my question for you. You're in the city of Denver right now.
Yes.
What is going on with I don't understand the quarterback controversy. I don't know why Paxton Lynch hasn't just been given the keys and this is our guy, let's just go ahead and roll. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet.
He's too raw. He's way too raw. They drafted him as a project. This is not a guy that they drafted thinking that he was going to start right away, which is tough because they need a guy to start right away.
Yeah, I feel like they've kind of forced their hand with that, haven't they?
No, he's not. He's not going to play. I don't think he's going to play this year, barring injury or some other catastrophic event. He's a project. He is a project. So that's terrifying because Mark Sanchez fumbled the ball twice last preseason game. Trevor Siemian, who has a live arm, still made a mistake, which we keep saying you cannot do in the Gary Kubiak offense. You can do a lot of stuff as a quarterback, but throwing an interception is not one of them. So it's
for any offense.
For any offense, yeah, you cannot turn the ball over, and both of these guys have been turning it over. Paxton's just not an option. So I say go with Siemian. I mean, yeah, Mark Sanchez has a little more experience, really? But you know that Sanchez will make the mistake. That's what he does. You can try to prevent it. You can try to postpone it for as long as possible. But Mark Sanchez will have a 3-turnover game. He will. That's the football player he is. We've seen it over and over and over again. There's no reason to think if he regularly starts football games, he won't turn the ball over the same way. And there's a chance with Trevor Siemian he might not be that. And so that's about it with the Denver quarterbacks. Yeah. That's it, yeah.
See, I think that's wrong. I think they should start Paxton Lynch and take their lumps and roll with it. He was a first-round pick, wasn't he? They traded up to get him, didn't they?
They did, yes. He was.
So, and I mean, if you subscribe to the philosophy of, a first-round pick needs to play, I mean, this isn't like he's got Brett Favre and the team has Brett Favre and they brought in Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's not the case. There's no heir apparent. So if you really believe in the kid, and you were willing to trade some assets in order to move up in the draft, I don't understand why you wouldn't then take your lumps and roll with it. And I think of all people who knows that, and I don't mean to be critical of the governor here, but John Elway knows that. I mean, he was a first-round draft pick. He's got to know that, a lot of the learning that you're going to do is going to be on the field and not on the bench. So, I don't know. I say I don't think he sits the whole year. I think he rolls out, if not week 1, definitely if things aren't going well for the Broncos, 4 or 5. You got to do something, to at least, for that defense too, to know that, they don't have to shoulder the entire load of the team. And I feel like it's care. But I feel like it's set up for them. I mean, they've improved their offensive line. They got the guy from Seattle, so you got to believe the running game is going to be better. Everybody's all in with the Booker kid, who's a rookie in their backfield, who's going to back up C.J. Anderson. I feel like it's set up to where you have pieces. You have veteran receivers in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders who can make their quarterback better and help that quarterback out. I don't know, man. I feel like they should just roll with it, but that's just me.
I got to disagree with you because I think for all of those reasons that you just said, they have a solid team. They don't need to put pressure on their quarterback. They don't need to force anything. All they need is for the guy to hand the ball off and not fuck it up. And so there's the most likely person to fuck it up right now is the rookie, is Paxton, which is tough to say because, I mean, Sanchez is quite likely to fuck it up. But
I was going to say, man. No,
Sanchez is definitely likely to fuck it up. But, I mean, the rookie, you're basically, I don't know, you're conceding defeat, it seems like, if you just put in the rookie and, quote unquote, take your lumps. I think if you put in a guy with experience, I think if you find the game manager type, that you have the talent, you have the defense to keep you in games, you have the receivers to make good plays at the end of games to steal things. I think you've got enough team around it. You don't have to just rely and panic on maybe not having the best quarterback. I think you can hide him with scheme. I think you can just hand the ball off and, like you said, develop the running game more, take the pressure off, and just, develop more of a team aspect. And if they can do that, well, then there shouldn't be any problem having a rookie quarterback or having the butt fumble play quarterback. So, I mean, I think that's the goal, is really just develop the team around this quarterback and not rely on them very much, regardless of who they are, because what they got ain't that good.
Oddshark has Denver's line at 9.5. You taking the over, you taking the under, G?
So, like you said, I've got a log jam at the middle of this division between the three teams, between Oakland, Denver, and Kansas City. I have Denver and Kansas City log jammed tied at 9 and 7. So I would, if you found a line for 9.5, I'd take the under. I was looking at Bovada.lv. Their line was set at 9 even. So I've got to push on that. So I'm staying away from the Broncos. I got no idea what they might be, what the quarterback position might be. I wouldn't want to gamble on that over-under, because that defense might come and play lights out and might choke this division, and they could win 12 games again, just like last year, pulling games out of their butt, forcing turnovers late, and just dominating on defense. So I'd stay away from that line. I've got them at 9 wins, though.
Yeah, I definitely, if I was betting on this, I would feel very uncomfortable, so it makes me not want to bet on, even if it's at 9. I think you stay away from betting this division. The only team that I like is the one that we were talking about in Chargers. In the Chargers, and taking the under there. And with Kansas City, I had the line at 9.5. Did you have it at 9?
Bovada had Kansas City at 9.5 as well.
Okay. Yeah, see, and that's tough. I mean, those are you don't know what's going to happen between these three teams. You just don't,
Yeah, and they're all pretty fierce rivalries. I feel like they're all pretty close to each other. I think I'd probably tip the coaching hat to Andy Reid right now. I think he's probably.
Are we really saying that? Is Andy Reid the best coach in this division? Wow.
I mean, Kubiak did some amazing things last year. And if he kind of repeats the sort of coaching magic sans quarterback, like he's probably going to have to do, then I think he definitely comes up. But yeah, right now I think Andy Reid is the best coach. I mean, weird. The Walrus is the best. Chowing down ribs,
Riding into battle with Alex Smith.
Yeah, and small hands Alex Smith is still in the league. Do we think that he can throw touchdowns now? I mean, should you draft Jeremy Maclin?
So
in fantasy?
He did throw to some receivers last year, so you had the luck. I like the Maclin pick, and all the mocks that I've done. He's popped up in like the 4th round for me, and I think that's a great.
He's good value.
Pick.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
that's great value.
Yeah, he's a number 1 wide receiver, so he's going to get a lot of targets. The thing about Alex Smith, he never necessarily wins you the game, but he doesn't necessarily lose you the game either.
Right.
So he is the Denver Broncos would kill to have Alex Smith as a quarterback right now. I think I can go ahead and comfortably say that, just because he'd be stable and he'd be everything that they want to be. He is the definition of a game manager. He's going to take care of the football. He's going to get out and run a naked bootleg every now and then to keep the defense honest. He can push the ball down the field, not very well, but enough to kind of stretch the field. And you have Jamal Charles coming off an ACL injury, and they did just fine without him last year. So I like Kansas City to push Denver, but again, like you're saying, the road for this division goes through Denver. You have to go and you have to beat that defense in order to get there. But I like Kansas City's chances. I think it's a toss-up, and I think that favors them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be close. I mean, this is going to come down to, I think, a couple fluke plays in some close games. that's going to break, 1, 2, 3 games. That's really going to shake out the division. Right now, I have the reverse jinx put on the Oakland Raiders. I have picked them to win 11 games. So I'm saying they're going to do it. I think they're going to take a game. I think that their defense, while we talked about Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, and Latavius Murray as being pretty potent offensive players, their defense is solid. And Khalil Mack is a monster.
Yeah, he's
on the defensive side of the ball. He is a tackling machine. He owns that defense, and they drafted some people. I think they're going to be a pretty solid unit, and I think they're going to have what it takes to hang with Denver defensively to make sure they get those turnovers from whatever incompetent quarterback is playing for Denver right now. And then I think they've got the firepower to put up those points. So I hope it's wrong because, here in Bronco country, we want to see the Raider Nation stumble. But, man, I think this is I think it's the Raiders' time. I think they're going to break through and win 11 games and get that playoff spot.
Do you think the Raiders will be rejuvenated with the news that it's more than likely going to happen that they're going to move to Las Vegas and be the Las Vegas Raiders? Do you think that maybe that'll give them a boost? Because that was reported by ESPN that I guess the Raiders have trademarked 3 separate slogans associated with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yes, I saw that this morning, yeah. I think, I don't know how that really affects players. I mean, relocating isn't that big of a deal. I guess Oakland's a little bit of a ways away. I think the fan base is still probably mobile. I think most of those black hole, passionate Raider Nation fans won't mind a weekend drive over to Vegas.
Yeah, who isn't going to want to go to Vegas?
Have a little fun. That's a great trip. That's a great weekend trip. You show up Saturday morning, you gamble, you ingest some substances, go to the game on Sunday, maybe take Monday off if you need to. Stay at the Yeah, it's great. I think it's a great idea, actually. And we're obviously a gambling friendly podcast. I know there are dangers involved with the integrity of the sport, but open it up. Put a team in Vegas. Open the gambling up. Legalize the DraftKings. Let people do what they want to do. I say, yeah, go for it. I think they'll be excited. I think Oakland's going to turn. I'm terrified for a Broncos fan, but I think this is going to be Oakland's year.
Yeah, I think it, and I have it either being Kansas City or Denver winning the division. I think Oakland challenges, but they don't come all the way through. But to get back to the Vegas thing, I just think it makes sense for them to go, and I think it would be something really. I feel like this is the thing that the NFL has been ignoring or trying to push to the side for decades. And once they do it and they see just how much money they're actually going to make doing something like that and all the things that you can do in Las Vegas, it's a no-brainer. And what better team to go to Las Vegas than the Raiders? The team that has always been defiant of the NFL, that has always,
Absolutely.
that's rooted within their history. So why wouldn't you go to Las Vegas where it may be a little sketchy for some people, I just think
it's
it makes
perfect.
sense.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Are we going to get a name change, or are they just going to be the Vegas Raiders? Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, no change.
Yeah, no change. I think that's perfect. Because then if they go through a name change, then they'll go through the whole PR thing. Next thing you know, they'll have like aqua uniforms, and they'll be like the Las Vegas Mermaids presented by the Bellagio. Like, it just wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Yep, totally agree.
Keep the Raiders
of Las Vegas is perfect.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that. Nice. Can we mark that?
Good. Let's mark it. You're welcome. NFL.
I think that's our grand slam dunk of the podcast, my friend.
Yeah, let's mark that. Good grand slam dunk to end on.
So, just to recap, I have the Broncos and Chiefs deadlocked at the top with the Raiders and then the Chargers, respectfully. You have the Raiders, and then did you have the Broncos and Chiefs, or the Chiefs and then the Broncos?
I've got the Broncos winning the tiebreaker of that.
Okay. And then the Chargers rounding out the bottom. I think we can go ahead and mark that, G.
Let's mark that. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Market Zero podcast. We appreciate you listening as always. Again, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the good stuff. Make sure to like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, download the podcast, visit the website, and as always, market.